Are you worried about offending people by addressing them incorrectly in German? Are you confused about when to use the formal or informal you in German? As an English native speaker, this concept can be quite confusing since in English we address everyone in the same way using you. However, knowing exactly which you to use in German is going to help you navigate social interactions confidently, maintain professionalism at the workplace, demonstrate cultural sensitivity, and avoid misunderstandings. So in today's video, we're going to dive deep into this topic and I'll share with you how you can set the tone for an interaction with someone if you want to switch from the formal you to the informal you. If we haven't met yet, hello and herzlich willkommen. My name is Salome. I'm a German native teacher, and on this channel, Speak Fluent German, I teach practical, everyday life German in plain English, and I've dedicated myself to helping expats become confident and conversational in the language. So if that sounds like something you need in your life, then you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for more weekly lessons. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's lesson. So unlike in English, where you is used universally, German requires you to navigate these two forms based on the context and the relationship to that person. So when do we use du? We use the informal you with family members, with friends and peers, with children and teenagers, and when both parties have agreed to use du, which is what we call duzen. I'll also show you a few example sentences in a bit on how you can communicate or suggest switching to du. But first, let's take a look when we would need the formal you, also Sie. So we use Sie with strangers to show respect or politeness in professional settings, so in a workplace, for example, or in a job interview when addressing people older than you, unless otherwise invited to use du. And also we use Sie in customer service or business-related contexts. In written language, by the way, Sie is always capitalized when it means the formal you, in order to distinguish it from Sie as in she or Sie as in they. So wait, what? There are 3 different pronouns in German that are all called Sie. How do we know when someone means the formal you, she, or they? Very good question. Besides getting the information from the context of the situation, obviously, another hint is the verb conjugation. For those who don't know what conjugating a verb means, it basically means adjusting the verb ending to the thing or the person that is doing the action. And in German, the verb conjugation varies depending on the pronoun. So for du, the informal you would add an st ending to the verb stem, and for sie, the formal you, it remains in its base form with an en ending. So let's take a look at an example with the verb kommen, which means to come. Ich komme, du kommst, sie, es kommt, wir kommen, ihr kommt und sie kommen. Kommen, by the way, is a regular verb, so all of these endings can be applied to other regular verbs as well. And now let's take a look at a couple of example sentences. Kommen Sie aus den USA? Nein, ich komme aus Kanada. Woher kommst du? Ich komme aus Australien. If you feel like this whole grammar thing is still a bit overwhelming and you need to start with the very basics first, I highly recommend joining my free training for beginners. It's a 60-minute value-packed lesson where we dive into German pronunciation, daily life conversations, basic grammar concepts, and a lot more. The link to register for free is in the description box below. I call it my quick start guide for beginners, so if you are ready to become confident and conversational in German, this is the place to be. I would love to see you there. All right, so let's move on to some practical tips when it comes to choosing du or sie. First tip that I have for you is to start with sie. When in doubt, start with sie. It's safer to be overly formal than accidentally too casual. Also, look for cues. In social situations, native speakers might invite you to switch to du with the phrase wir können uns duzen. So we can use du with each other. Also, observe the context. So in workplaces, especially in more traditional cultures, sie is the norm unless you're among peers or have been explicitly invited to use du. All right, next we're going to take a look at some example conversations so you understand even better when to use du and when to use sie. Los geht's.
Guten Morgen, Frau Müller. Wie geht's
Guten
Ihnen?
Morgen, mir geht's hervorragend. Und Ihnen?
Mir geht's auch super, vielen Dank.
Hey Peter, wie geht's dir?
Mir geht's super und dir?
Alles tutti, danke.
Das freut mich.
Now, switching from sie to du can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Generally, the more senior or older person initiates this change. So here are some key points and examples to help you navigate this transition smoothly. Number one, the invitation to switch to du typically comes from the more senior or older person. Number two, both parties should agree to switch. It's polite to check if the other person is comfortable with it. And number three, consider the settings. In formal or professional environments, switching to du is less common. So make sure to observe the situations, and if you're not sure, maybe ask a colleague that you trust or a mentor at your workplace. Now let's dive into some examples on how to switch from sie to du. Usually we do that to take away the formalities of the situation and to just feel more casual with each other. I always feel like when Germans agree to using du with each other, it instantly breaks the ice.
Wir können uns duzen, wenn das für dich in Ordnung ist.
Ja, gerne. Wie geht's dir?
Mir geht's super und dir?
Mir auch. Guten Tag, Herr Müller.
Guten Tag. Wir können uns duzen, wenn das für Sie in Ordnung ist.
Ja, gerne. Ich heiße Salome.
Ich bin der Thomas, freut mich.
Freut mich. Hi, Salome Kolb mein Name.
Hi, sollen wir uns duzen? Ich bin der Robin.
Salome.
Freut mich. Darf ich du sagen?
Ja, du darfst mich duzen. Now, if you're not comfortable with the switch to du, you can politely decline. In that case, you can say something like, vielen Dank, aber ich fühle mich wohler, wenn wir beim sie bleiben. Oder vielen Dank, aber können wir beim sie bleiben? So understanding when to use du and sie in German is essential to communicate respectfully. And as mentioned before, if you want my help to kickstart your learning journey, my free training for beginners is the best place to get started. So I hope after watching this video, you are more clear now on when to use which you form and how to set the tone for a smooth interaction with a German native. I'll be back next week with another lesson for you guys. Das ist alles für heute. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!